What's shaking, everybody? Thank you very, very much for those that perhaps have been sitting here live waiting the whole time. If you're just coming in, congratulations, you didn't have to wait. Or perhaps you're watching this back. It's nice and easy for you. But for those that have hung out for the past 40 minutes waiting for this ride to kick off, thank you very, very much. I want to give a shout out to Sunsaver from NHH for hanging out. Tammy, you're always here supporting the garage. We appreciate you so much. Bonnie, prefer not to say. I know you're in the other room doing stuff, so no worries. We know you're listening in. Zero Cool, thank you for showing up. We got Van Gogh in here tonight. We also have the Paranormal Chop Shop, which is Sonny and Lewis. They're over there. You guys can check them out on Fridays. We just were in there last night, and he has, oh man, I forgot her name. I think it's next week for him. Could be wrong. He also has a witch. She's from Northern Ireland, I believe. We'll be coming to hang out with him. Let's see if I missed anybody else. Let me see. Van Gogh, Sunsaver. Looks like I might have missed some other ones if I did. Oh, Chris Holm, you're in here. What's up, brother? How's it going? If I missed anybody else who's popping in and out, I apologize. Andrew, what's happening, brother? I hope you're safe out on the road. I know you're traveling around, not trucking around out there. It's always fun to hear what the sightings that you've seen along the way. Excuse me. Jose, welcome. Red Panda Koala. This one surprised me the most the other day when I heard that he knew who I was. I was like, how the French toast does Red Panda Koala know me, right? And that's all thanks to Ben and Joe over here at the UFO Garage podcast. They've done a great job building a little community that brings us all together. I know I get to hang out with so many of you guys over at SOR in the chats as well, so we really appreciate it. Also want to give everybody a heads up really quick. Guitar Slinger, welcome. If I do break up a little bit, I was telling Sonny, I think my internet might be having issues. As you know, the ones that saw the update take 40 minutes. So I go in and out. Please, I apologize. Hopefully Lady Ann will sound good and she can cover for me in the corner glitching up on them. So also wanted to say, too, last week with Christina Gomez, I appreciate you guys hanging in there with me because I had a ton of cough medicine in me and I was struggling so much just to read words at the end. So I appreciate you guys for hanging out and making it to that. Jim, what's shaking? Welcome. And really quick, too, for next week, I have Ashley will be coming on, and she also has her podcast you guys can check out. It is Wednesdays We Talk Weird. She's really into cryptozoology. That's like her bread and butter. And then the Halloween, so we'll kind of be continuing that Halloween vibe and trend and moving along that way. So I want to thank each and every one of you as we get ready to get going. You guys know the rules. What happens in the van stays in the van, right? We're going to go travel the cosmos and beyond. And we're going to have a great time. Also, really quick, too, guys. Super Chat is open. If you guys want to support the show or support the garage, keep the lights on here in the garage, keep gasoline in Old Blue, we appreciate that. You can also become a monthly subscriber, I think for like $1.99. You can join the Space Fart Committee. It is. So you guys can be part of them. We had a new member on there. I forgot to catch them. It was a ways back. You guys can do that if you'd like, as well as support anything you want to do as far as merchandise. They're always updating. And really quick, too, one last thing, because I do like this. I'll at least mention it for him. Let's see. We're going to make this happen, guys. It's Manscaped. Clear for takeoff. Joe and Ben have told you. Your balls will thank you. Or if you're Ben, you can put that toner on your neck. We don't know why he does it. Joe, I'm right there with you. Your balls aren't on your neck. I don't know what he's doing. But Ben, we know you have a sensitive neck, so you do you. That's completely okay. The code for Manscaped is UFOGARAGE, all caps, all one word. You get 20% off your total order plus free shipping. And as I've been saying for a while, treat your family jewels like the jewels they truly are. So, without anything else to add here, let me do this for you guys too. Let's get this out of the way. And that's a great way to support them. That'll be, if we can get that going eventually long term, that'll open up all kinds of opportunities. Plus, I think everyone needs a little help venturing to the nether regions. That is always a good idea to use professional tools that when doing that. So, our guest tonight, Lady Ann. Here we go. Let's see. Oops. Oh boy. It just closed out on me. Hopefully I'm still live for you guys. If not, I'm going to switch it over to the phone. But hopefully it's hanging. I'm telling you what. Tonight's going to be, you guys are just going to have to hang in there with me. We're going to see what happens. All right. I think I'm back up. But if not, I'm going to use my phone just to be safe. So Lady Ann was born with the paranormal in her blood. She has had experiences beginning with her earliest memories, from ghosts, shadow entities, Sasquatch encounters, and more. Lady Ann is a Reiki master, intuitive tarot reader, and vampire witch who loves to dive into the spiritual realm. So with that, guys, let me bring on the one and only and extremely patient Lady Ann. And welcome to the show, finally, right? Only 5 years later, we finally get you on.
No worries. These things happen.
Oh, I tell you, you and I were talking. Obviously, I had to let you know. I'm like, hey, I don't know what's going on. I'm backstage. I don't know what's going on. So I let her know, and we were talking a little bit back and forth, and she was like, this is all going to work out. Just stay positive. Stay with those positive energy vibes. And I was like, oh, heck yeah. Plus, look at that. Look at your backdrop. My goodness.
Aw, thank you.
Are those real candles?
Yeah, they're real.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Really quick then, I always like to get this out of the way right in the beginning because that's when everybody's checking everything out. I do have some of this here linked to the bottom, and guys, I'll share it in the chat. But where can people find you, besides a little bit that I mentioned, and where they can support you if you'd like to mention some of that?
Yeah, so my podcast is the Caravan Library of Lore, and you can type that in on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, KPNL Radio. I own that as well, and you can find that again on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And then, just check us out there.
Heck yeah. And like I said, I'll make sure I put that in the chat here. I'll make sure I link that up for you guys so that you're able to click on the link. And one other thing, I know it might come up a little bit later, so I figure I'll have you mention it at least right now. That way we don't have to bring it up. But you had sent this to me, and I'll put this in the link at the bottom right now. But this is for, is this in regards to your fangs, or is this in regard to something else? I don't know if you can see at the bottom there. Or is it not showing?
Oh yeah, no, I see it. I see it. Yeah. So if a lot of the times people will ask me, where did you get your fangs? What's the story on your fangs? And I just, send them over to vamporium.shop. Father Sebastian is who made them, and he's written books, and he makes fangs. He's got a magazine out now. And so, so that's where you can find all kinds of vampire-related things.
Very nice. Very nice. Oh, we got UFO Garage in here just putting that up for me. I appreciate it. Thank you. More than likely, Ben. You should be out there doing dad stuff with the new baby. Congratulations once again on that. Ben just had a baby in the past week and a half here or so. So, I don't know.
Congratulations.
I'm surprised he's still awake. I know. We're all so excited for him. But yeah. We have that in the link, so if you guys would like to click on that, and I'll make sure I share the other link as well for anybody there. So let's get going here, I guess. One thing I'd love to do is kind of ask you, I guess. We could, and you even mentioned it there in your bio a little bit. This really for you, we always say, let's start at the beginning, and people are like, what, are we talking like when I was born? But it's pretty close with that with you. So is that where it really began? Was that early on for you in your life, or is having these, shall we say, I don't want to use the term just paranormal, but interesting and unexplained phenomenon. Is that a better term for it? This phenomenon, however it expressed itself to you, was that early on in life, correct?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I remember, my very first memory. Um, I was about, I want to say, at least from what I remember and what my dad and mother have told me, because when I was born, my mom had me, but then when I was a year old, she gave me to my dad. And so when she did that, he moved back in with his folks and he had to go to work. And so he found a babysitter. So I went over next door to the sitter's house. And I remember I couldn't speak yet. And there was this patio window, and out from the patio window there's just this rolling farm field, and it would get flooded, and it's now a wetlands. They don't farm that anymore because of it getting flooded. Well, I remember sitting in front of this window, and I remember looking out, and I remember seeing the colors, and I remember the water and how it shined off the water, and I remember thinking to myself, wow, I came back. And that is my earliest memory. So then, from there, I remember being in my crib, and I remember seeing, you could kind of see down the hallway, from my room, and you would see kind of just the fingertips of a hand that would be, it was like a shadow entity type of a hand that was on the hallway wall. And that's, I don't remember a time when I didn't have like a quote unquote normal life that didn't have something weird happening.
So with that, have you ever, I guess, have you always known? One of the things that really strikes me there is when you said you had the thought, "I'm back," right? I mean, to me, this sounds like prior
Mhm.
to perhaps you being able to even speak. Is that where more of this being a thought, right? You didn't go and say that to somebody. Right? You're like, "Hey, guess what,
Right
guys? I'm
now.
back." I mean,
Yeah, no, I couldn't speak and formulate those kinds of those words and sentences at that point. This was just a thought.
hmm. Now, in your mind, I guess, and if you don't mind me asking, the process of that idea of "I'm back," was that something you came
Mhm.
to understand more now, or did you just kind of always know that going along in life and just didn't really express it to anyone else?
I just, it's hard to explain when you just kind of have a knowing. So I just always kind of knew that I've been here before and that I came back, and yeah, I just kind of always went with it, and then I learned about reincarnation when I was older, and yeah, so
Very nice. So with that, I guess headed through, I guess, so you had these two experiences very, very early on in life. I want to say roughly give or take two and under. Would you say is that a fair
yeah.
estimate?
Yeah.
Okay. And after that, were things pretty normal for as childhood? Did you have a very average childhood, or would you say it's a bit unique in its own sense?
It was pretty normal. I mean, I grew up with my grandparents and my dad, and we didn't do a whole lot. They were rock hounders, and they collected postcards and went to work, and then ended up building their own businesses, and so life with them was normal. But I was always experiencing things that I didn't quite understand. I remember watching, because I loved Harry Houdini, anything that dealt with Houdini. And so I was watching this one episode, and it was talking about how, the seances and stuff. And gosh, I can't remember how old I was. I think maybe I was 7 at the time,
Hmm.
possibly, if I remember right. And I remember going up to my grandparents and being like, "When you die, will you come back and say goodbye to me?" Like, and the looks on their faces, oh my gosh, I felt so bad later on. And that was actually when I heard my very first ghost story, because my grandfather told me, he goes, "Well, sure I will if I can, And he said that he believed in ghosts because after his mother died, they had went up there, and they were waiting to for the funeral the next day. And that night he was laying in bed, and he saw an apparition at the foot of his bed, and he knew just instinctively that this was his mother, and he felt peace, come over him. Watched it dissipate, and then it was over. And later on, because he passed away in 2011, I did have a couple dreams where he was there, and he told me some things that I was able to verify, and I really believed and had that knowing that, it was really him and he was really there. And then even after that, one of my children, they were, so when I was really little, there was those the coin machines that would have the little egg that would come out, and there'd be like a dinosaur or a bug or something inside of it. Well, I loved those. And so Grandpa would always go and he'd do that at the store, and he'd come home and I'd be waiting there patiently, and then he'd get this egg and he'd pull it out of his pocket and he would give it to me. Well, after he passed, this is a week or two after he passed away, one of my children, who was about, I want to say 3 or 4 at the time, comes up to me, mommy. And I'm like, what? And they're like, Papa Don has a dinosaur in his pocket. And I was just, it was, pretty intense.
If I'm understanding this correctly, then it sounds like, and the only reason I'm kind of jumping ahead is since you brought it up a little bit, with your children, is this something you've been very open with them about? I know most parents, if you see a ghost on the TV or the kids see something and they get a little nervous, and we're like, oh, that's just TV, it's not real. Do you have a different approach with your children in this manner, as far as that realm?
Yeah, I do. That's actually something that I kind of go into on my podcast, because I think that you are, this is an opinionated opinion. I think that you are doing your child a disservice to say, oh yeah, this stuff doesn't exist, because what are you going to do when something like that actually legitimately happens to one of your children, and now they're even more afraid because they trusted what you said, and now this very real thing happened, and then that can do this domino effect of now they're thinking that they're crazy, they're questioning themselves, and they feel lied to by you. So with me, I started learning, well, I went to a healing group when I was 15 because my dad was attending there. So I started to go with him. And this is when I started to learn how to do Reiki. So taking what I learned from healing group, and then when I became a mom, I even took my children there. And so I have, I've got crystals and I do sage and stuff like that. I don't hide any of it from them. And it was funny because when they were really little, like toddlers, I remember they were running around in the grass, and one was pretending to be a ghost. And then the other one was running around with their hand up like this, sage, 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 to try to get rid of the ghost. And, so it's been normalized in my home. But I didn't, that was the biggest thing is I didn't really go into any of my particular experiences with them, just because I didn't want to influence them, or, that way it was just one of those things where if they had an experience, they could come to me and say, hey, this is what happened. And I would, be like, oh, okay, well, let's talk it out, so.
Right. And I think that's a great thing personally, because I know that's something that we've joked about. Ben and Joe joked one time on here about Santa Claus, and we were just, I can't remember. I was so out of it last weekend. I can't, if it was last weekend, I talked about Christina, I forgot. But we were joking, saying it's almost that, if you want to use the term conspiracy theory or whatever it might be, Santa Claus is kind of the first one where we kind of go along with it. And there is a moment where maybe they have their whole reality as they know it changes or shifts. I don't think it does as much damage to them. Maybe it does. I don't know. But I think that with this idea, the paranormal, or if they have an experience with UFOs or anything, a cryptid, that is some earth-shaking stuff that I think, like you're saying, as a parent, if we were at least open to them to say, hey, if this happens, it's okay. Like, you're not crazy. You're not, Because what do you do, right? If you're a kid, I know I was raised in a very religious household. So any of that stuff was chalked up, anything was chalked up to either angel or
Right.
demon. There was no in
Right.
between. There was
Oh.
no option for anything, right? So those are
Right.
the options. So if you've seen something that's making you
Mm.
question that and it doesn't fit angel or demon, then you're like, I guess I just don't talk about that, right? So I think that's a
Right.
great thing you're doing for your children that way to. And again, like you said, that's just your opinion. Everybody raise their children how they want to raise them. I mean, I don't want to be
Yes.
necessarily told how to raise my kids. So you do you, boo, is how
Right.
we always say.
Exactly. Exactly.
So now going back, then you mentioned an interesting thing that I hope I'm not assuming something that's incorrect here, but you said your mom gave you to your dad. What was that process about? I guess because you mentioned it was like 2, right? And this has been something that's been going on in your family lineage for a while, if I understood correctly.
Yeah, so okay. I ended up becoming my family's genealogist.
Oh,
And
okay.
I found
Yeah.
out that uh there's been many generations where the women didn't keep their children. They gave them up at 1 or 3 years old. And I'm the first one to keep my children
Wow.
in the maternal line. But I've since, reconnected with them, and just through talking and different research as well about what can be carried through maternal lines. And something that I found out that was really interesting is that for me, my spirit totem is the wolf. And I found out that, that's the same with my biological mother, my biological grandmother. Um, before I found my biological grandmother, and before she passed, we talked about her mother, who she had found and was able to reconnect with for a while, and she had ties to the wolf as well. So it's been interesting.
Yeah. Well, so I guess in that process of, and I don't want to, like you and I talked about earlier, I don't want to delve into anything that you're not comfortable sharing or expressing, but
Mhm.
I'm just making an assumption here, so that's not fair of me. But that had to have been a little bit. I mean, it had some sort of an impact in your life to have your mother give you up. Do you think that really drew your relationship with your father much closer, or did it just make you more of an independent individual?
Mm. I love my father very much. I we did not have we were not close. I was
Hmm.
very much a individual child doing my own thing. I spent most of my time in the basement writing writing stories out on a typewriter,
Hmm.
and researching and reading. So
Very interesting. Really quick, because we have lots to cover tonight too. So, John
yes.
Hudson here. Thank you, by the way, brother, for hanging out in the chat. He has a question for you. He
Oh.
said, "Wait, are those fang real?" And I believe it fangs, but hey, yeah, he wants to. So, if you want, really quick, people are asking, so we'll talk about it
Okay.
now, right?
Right, right, right. Okay, so my fangs, what I'm going to say is my fangs were made by Father Sebastian. And if you are interested in fangs, I would suggest going to vamporium.shop and you can check them out from there.
There you go. And I just dropped the link in the bottom there, so hopefully you guys will be able to click on that and check that out if you'd
Mhm.
like. And that's definitely something we're going to bring up. I mean, I would love to get into, but did you have, I guess, moving along in your life here a little bit, did you have any
Mhm.
major experiences that you can remember, say in the teenage years? You know, we talk a lot of times about specifically, I don't know why, females right around
Mhm.
puberty really having this attachment to the thinning of the veil, as it were, or whatever. Did you have any
Mhm.
experiences at that time in your life, or was it more more down the road at that time?
Oh, yeah, it was around gosh, 14ish, I would say. I'm actually so I am writing a book. And I was just announced as one of the authors over on Beyond the Fray Publishing. And I mean, I'm halfway through the book and I'm still like 15. and I'm going to be 35 in November. So I mean there's so much but it did start around 13, I would say, ish, where things really started to turn. I mean, growing up I always saw the shadow entities in the hallway and everything. But I mean, I ended up making a Ouija board and didn't know what I was
that's where it
doing.
begins, right? That's where it always begins for everybody. Like,
Right,
let's just make
right.
a Ouija board. It's the thing to do.
Yeah.
Everybody's doing it these days.
Exactly, exactly. So I made one and I had a really profound experience after that because pretty much I didn't think it worked and thought nothing of it. So that night, go to sleep, no big deal. And the next night I felt just uncomfortable, but I wasn't sure exactly why. And then, each night it seemed to get worse until one night I was in the bathroom brushing my teeth, doing the whole bedtime routine thing, and it sounded like somebody whispered my name in my ear, like they were just right there. And I froze, and I got out of there as quick as I could, and everything was okayish for the rest of the night. Like, that had me on edge. But it was the night after that that in I don't know how to, I mean, I was laying in bed, and in my mind's eye I could see this like shadow entity standing next to my bed. And it was this male energy, and then I could physically feel hands holding my legs down.
Wow.
And so I'm laying there and I'm just trying to barely breathe, just, if you don't breathe, maybe it won't see that, that it's there, kind of a thing. And I don't know how I did it, but eventually I passed out and I was, asleep for the rest of the night. And then I ended up doing so my folks, they attended the Methodist church in town. And so I ended up telling my grandfather what had happened. And I, thought it was all my fault because of the whole Ouija board thing. So he had, the priest come and bless the house and the property and everything. Well, that night there was a youth group that I also ended up going to. And that night I wasn't, I was sitting there going, gosh, did any of this work? Is this really, is it going to be okay? Because last night was so intense. And I was laying in my bed. I was laying on my left side. So there was a window, against the wall on my bed, and then my door was off to my right. So I'm laying and I can see this like pulsating white and blue light. And it's just kind of slow and it's pulsating. And I'm like, well, that's weird. So, I was thinking, God, could it be the reflection of my dad's TV in my room? And then I was like, well, no, that's too far because it's like down the hallway and then the hallway turns. So I roll over and there is this giant bright ball of light just floating at the end of my bed. And I didn't feel fear or anything, but I did sit up. And when I sat up to go towards it, it was just gone. Just like it was never there. And so I kind of just sat there for a little bit and I laid back down. And then I had this feeling of peace wash over me. I mean, I've never felt that since or before. And nothing ever happened anymore in regards to, that man and holding me down and all of that.
So Chris Holm brings up a great point here. Do you think that it had to do with he said, didn't close the session? Do you think that looking back, knowing what you know now, do you think that that's possible?
Yeah, no, I think that I just didn't I didn't handle it right. I didn't do the protections over it or myself. I didn't close it. I had no clue what I was doing.
Right. You know, I think that it's funny too. Well, let's hit on that for a second while we're here. Ouija boards are always. We're in Halloween, right, guys? We're in the month of Halloween. Let's say that everybody gets extra spooky. Everybody's into the paranormal. Everybody's into the ghosts at this time. And we know that.
Yeah.
I would say that they're the bandwagon fans, and I might be even considered that. But I do admit. There's something about this time of year, and it starts right around this week for me. It doesn't happen at the beginning of October for me, but right about the second, third week, once the air gets crisp, like I got a nice crisp breeze outside today. It's getting chilly. It's rainy. When it gets like that, then I'm in the paranormal or the Halloween spirit, as it were. And one thing that always comes up at this time of the year is the Ouija boards, time and time and time again. So, in your opinion, what do you think? Yay or nay on a Ouija board?
I own 2 of them.
There we go.
And I think that you just have to know what you're doing. It's all about intention. You know, later on, going to healing group and learning how to work with those energies and learning about cord cutting and protection and everything. It changed my opinion on a lot of stuff. So yes, I do own Ouija boards. I will use them. I've went live with the caravan a couple times doing a live Ouija board session. So
very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I will say right off the bat, that's something I'm generally in that realm. I'm ignorant to. I've never done a deep dive. I've never gone in and studied it a lot. But I do know that it was something that was deeply, and I mean deeply, feared in my household growing up, because my mom had some experiences with it, and dating back in the family lineage. My one grandmother on my grandpa's side, or my mom's dad's side, was a witch and stuff. They came from Ireland. So that was like this thing in the family, right? That they're like, oh, we're all cursed and whatever. But to me now, looking at it, I definitely think that it's like many things. And this is just, guys, this is just William's opinion. This isn't, written in law or anything. But I think it's just a tool and a resource, right? So it's all about how we use the tool. I think it's the intentions behind things. And I definitely believe, though, one thing I did respect growing up was I'd never teased the spirits, as it were, right? That realm, that was something I believed in and I respected, and I understood that if you are not protecting yourself, there are attachments out there, and that was something that I find, not always, but sometimes younger people don't take very seriously, and they joke about it, and I don't know, to each their own, but I've always respected it. Even if I didn't fear it, I have respect for it, because I understand that there are things out there that the veil that we pretend that doesn't exist is a very real thing. And once you experience something that you can't explain, I mean, like you've gone through, that has to be life altering. So that's just my 2 cents. Do you think that you want to add more? Is that wrong as far as the Ouija board thing, or did I get anything wrong? If I did, tell them now.
Like, no. No, I agree with you 110%. It was when you were talking about, when you experience something like real and how it's life changing, because that's definitely happened with me. And then it's so funny because even if you go through things, even if you've experienced ghosts or aliens or whatever, you can still experience something else and have it be life altering. I don't think that I'll ever get used to any of it. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose too, with yourself. So I guess jumping back into your life here a little bit. So we kind of left off right around 14. You're going to this experience. You had the orb. Did you ever have an interpretation of that? I mean, did you, in your own thoughts now, what do you think that was? I mean,
at that point, so, okay. Being raised by my paternal side, it was my dad's mother's mother. She was like the matriarch of the family, and everybody attended church with her. I remember being baptized, to the church that they went to, and after I was born. So it was very, at least with my grandma and grandpa, it was more of your Christian viewpoint in the home. My dad never really talked about it too much. The only thing my dad ever really said, at least up until I hit a certain age, was that, I don't know, I don't want to be just recounting what my dad said. You know, in his opinion, you didn't have to go to a church to worship God. And so that was his opinion. And so for me, at the time, I was thinking, oh my gosh, this must be an angel. It must be an angel because we had somebody come and a preacher come and bless the house. And then I had went to this church. And so, you know, now there's this ball of light at the end of my bed. So I equated it with an angel, angelic energy.
Nice. That's so funny you bring that up, because I definitely relate to that. I've talked to Ben about this quite a bit, and Joe before in the past, as far as the experiences, and it's weird because you can be so set in your ways sometimes and not even realize. I think we're all a bit programmed or conditioned, regardless of how you're raised, right? Because you're gonna have this set of ways that they've raised you, and that's gonna affect your view on the world, right? But to hear you say that, far as is the same, it's very similar to what I went through, at least. And I don't think people, I guess, unless it's like an experiencer, if you've experienced something, and I can't claim that I have, or haven't gone into really all that, I don't think that that's the same as seeing something. You know, it's not, you can't really relate to it unless you've been through it. So it's very interesting how in religion, and it's not just Christianity, it could be any of them, they always have a solution, but the solution seems to also be a bit binding at times. And that's just my own little experience with it. But sometimes it can close these avenues, what could be going on, and it kind of puts some binders on, you know, like the horse blinders back in the day, kept the horse focused right on what was in front of it.
Yes, exactly.
And for some people, that's what they want. And I, like I said, I always tell people, you live the life you think you need to live here, right? But I have found with some of these, a lot actually of experiencers seem to have had a couple common trends, which are some sort of interesting childhood experience, a military family or background, and a religious background. Those three things, and I could be entirely wrong about that, because I'm sure people have had experiences that don't have those things in their life, but I found in listening to these stories of people, those correlations seem to come up a lot. And I'm sure that we could think of a couple other ones, but that seems to be there consistently. And I believe you had at least two of those, right? Two of the three, probably.
I have my father was in the Air Force.
Oh, see?
So, yeah.
Air Force, again. It's always the Air Force. It always comes back to that.
Yep. There you go. Yeah, no, and that's a whole another basket of weird as well. So, yeah.
Heck yeah. Now, well, I guess, I mean, you brought it up a little bit, so let's hit on how so far as the basket of weird, which we are all about the weird around here, okay? I end every show telling people to stay curious and keep it weird. Matter of fact, you're in Oregon, correct?
I am.
Okay, so isn't it Portland that's all about that? Isn't that like their model or whatever? Isn't it? It's stay strange or keep it, something like that?
Keep Portland weird. Yeah.
There we go. That's it.
I avoid Portland.
Yeah, I hear you. I know it hasn't been great so far in some other reasons, but the keep it weird part, I'll give them that, and I believe they really strive for it and are proud of it out there. But I think in life, I don't know, weird is not always bad, and I suppose we could hit on that. Do you feel that you had a weird upbringing? I mean, any more so than anyone else?
Well, I mean, the upbringing was normal, but the experiences were definitely not. You know, in regards to my dad being in the military, I remember, because I loved to look up at the stars. I loved looking and studying the constellations and everything. So I would look up there and, you know, you'd see different things moving across the sky. You had your satellites and your shooting stars and all this stuff. Well, I remember one day I was talking to my dad, and I don't remember how it got brought up, but he was talking about UFOs. And I was like, well, how can you tell? How do you know if it's a UFO? And he goes, well, it's very easy. You know, here's a satellite. This is what they do. This is a shooting star. This is what they do. And this is what a UFO does. I was like, oh, okay. And then later on, I would be looking in the sky and I've seen a lot of very strange things in the sky that, it made it went back and forth kind of like this. And then there was another one where it kind of went across and went down diagonally and then it just shut up. And things were different colors. It might be blinking red. One might be blinking like a bluish color. And then another one was like multicolored. And it was just very much like normal kind of a deal. And my dad made it seem normal. And so then one day I was like, well, is there good aliens and bad aliens then? And he said, well, yeah. Just like there's good and bad people. And that was the key. The way he said it, because he's not somebody that he didn't joke around and be funny and all of that kind of thing. This was very like,
matter of fact,
real.
Right? Just a matter of fact way to put it out there.
Exactly. So it was just like, oh, okay. And then what was really weird was that eventually, so I would be trying to learn about aliens and UFOs and stuff like that, and we had a landline. Now maybe this was just coincidence, maybe, and maybe we just had a faulty phone line. But if I would bring it up with my friends, it almost seemed like somebody was on the line. And then if it continued, we couldn't use our phones. The entire phone line in the house would go down. So you'd pick up the receiver and there was no dial tone, there's nothing. Absolutely nothing. And it only happened if we were discussing that topic. And that was it.
It's bad. I'm telling you, it's so funny. Was your dad, was he in the military for life? Like he full service?
No, he wasn't.
Oh, okay. Well, it's always interesting though, the topic of how many of those guys, back in that, I don't think it's not really even, it's not even conspiratorial anymore. We definitely 100% know they were listening to people, but it's always interesting, like
right.
Who and what, right? Was it some sort of entity, or was it just simply people tapping into here and make sure that people aren't sharing secrets that they shouldn't be sharing if they have knowledge about our military? So,
right.
Really quick though, before we move on to your childhood, if you wouldn't mind, I actually came across a story I heard you sharing one time. And it goes, and I believe it was your father. If I have it wrong, forgive me. But it had to do with you guys being in the woods and him bringing up the little people. Do you remember this experience?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So again, come from a long line of rock hounders. My great-grandfather, grandfather, and father, even my brother, they all ended up, they would go out and look for rocks and stuff, and then they would make them into, belt buckles and necklaces and earrings and everything. Well, we would go out in the woods a lot, and I remember being in the car, and I hated it. I hated it because I was afraid of Bigfoot. And, because I always heard the stories and everything, and that's what I was scared of. And I was just sitting there going, he could be watching me, he could be in the woods. And, so at this point, I was like 5. And so we get out and we're walking in the woods, and I see this clear as day, like this is off of old logging roads and stuff. Okay. And there is this perfect little footprint in the dirt. And it looks like a 1-year-old was walking around out there with no shoes on. Perfect little, and I said, Dad, what is that? Because I'm thinking Bigfoot footprints are big. Like, this isn't big. What is this? And he was like, well, it's the little people. Just matter of factly again. And that was the end of the conversation. And I didn't realize that there was such a thing until getting into this community. And then I'm like, are you serious? So
do you think, okay, there's a couple ways I want to go this. So first of all, let's hit this. Do you think your father was an experiencer on some level? Did this conversation ever come up, or if it didn't, do you feel or intuitively that he had some experiences at some point in his life?
You know what's really, really weird about that? I actually went to call him 2 days ago because I realized that instead, so I was always razzing him about being in the Air Force because he didn't tell me what he did. The only thing
Mm.
that he will talk about is how he swam with the jellyfish in
Oh heck
Italy.
yeah!
And that's
Every
it. Like like that's it.
every man
And
who's
it's
ever
just
been
like
in the
seriously?
military swam
Yeah,
with the
you just
jellyfish. I was in for 20
exactly.
years. What'd you do? Jellyfish. Yeah. What are you gonna do?
Right. Exactly. And so, and I know that he always liked X-Files. I was watching that with
Mm.
him. So I just razzed him my whole life, and I was like, "Oh, well, I bet I was grown and I'm half alien." And gosh, when I first got my car, I was like, "Hey dad, check this out. I got a new car." I was like, "I got it from some guy in area 51. He told me that if I see lights in the sky to just drive really fast, but he gave me a great deal on it." And so like, because I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna razz him because he won't give me information. So I
Mm.
never I never really sat there and thought about asking him, did you have a experience? Because
Mm.
later on when we were in healing group, I was also learning how to do like channeling and stuff, which it's kind of a new topic for me to talk about. But
Mm.
I was
Yeah.
learning how to do that. And at one point there, I don't know, I was in there and I had this vision of this certain kind of crystal pyramid, and all of a sudden somebody walks in and they have one. And so I'm like, I think
Really.
I'm supposed to hold this. Can I borrow it? And he let me borrow it. And so I was holding on to it, and I remember just having this big impression and seeing things in my mind's eye. And I was drawn to this woman that was sitting over on the couch. So I walked up to her, and I was just like holding this thing and feeling super anxious and weird. And I kind of held on to it, and I looked at her and I'm like, I think I'm supposed to tell you something. And then I don't know anything that happened. All I know is it was like I woke back up and she's crying and she's telling me thank you. I have no idea what I did. I have no idea what I said. And later on, what ended up happening is she took it as a message or something to go to the ESETI Ranch, which I've never been to yet. But she went
Okay.
with my dad, and they went with somebody else from Healing Group. I've tried to ask, hey, what did you experience when you were there? Well, you'll just have to go and experience it for yourself. Seriously? Like, all right, jellyfish. I mean, that's
Exactly.
yeah.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say I mean I guess this is just William's assumptions, but man, does it sound like that's an experience who just came from a generation where you couldn't talk about it. He was in a career path, that again, this is
Oh.
me making assumptions, but this is very similar to what Terry Lovelace went through with his father a little bit. And
Mm.
he's always wondered, and he said, I wish I could have sat down, because he said his father loved talking about space and talking about the things up there. Now, he would always say to the general public, that's just the stuff from the other guys talking about Russia. But at one time, he did tell me, he said, that not everything's from them. Some of it's from somewhere else.
Right.
And listening to this experience, and your dad was in the Air Force. Now, general
Mm-hmm.
timeline on this would have been, I'm guessing, give or take the 90s, right? That he was in, maybe?
Vietnam War time. He
Oh,
had me
okay.
when
So
he was
go.
35.
Okay. I gotcha. Yeah, we never
Yeah.
know
I
that. I mean,
mean,
there's. Hmm.
and it's true. I mean, okay, so my family does kind of have those, well, you don't talk about this, because I mean, even my, cuz we have my on my paternal side, we came from Bessarabia. And Bessarabia, it was this little town, Alt Arcis, which is in it'd be where Moldova is now. And so we haven't been here for very long on my paternal side. And some of the stories from there and what they went through when they were in Bessarabia and dealing with the army, that, they were very much like, okay, you have to come and be in our army or we will, kill you and your family if you don't. And those stories, they were still today, they're very much like, we don't talk about this. And it's like, oh, really? Okay. So
yeah,
just a very private, secretive family.
Yeah, and I will give them credit on this. I will say this. I think a person's word, and it should still mean something to today, and I try to make sure that if I get my word on something, then I keep it, because I believe integrity is key with anything, right? But that generation did a great job on, if they said something, even if they didn't want to completely do it, but they said they were going to do it, they followed through with it, even if that meant taking a secret to the grave.
Right.
And I don't know how to feel about it, because sometimes I really respect that, and other times we wouldn't have the stories we have if people hadn't been a whistleblower, as it were, or brought these
exactly
underlying truths to the light. So I don't know. I mean, again, maybe that's who knows. He's still here with us, correct? Your father,
right? Yes, yeah,
and we'll see.
Yes, we will see for sure.
So really quick, before I fall behind, because I promised Guitar Slinger here that I would ask. He had a question for you, and I want to make sure I get it right. So I'm going to scroll back here. I believe it was in relationship to dreams, but I want to verbatim get it right. I should have scrolled up before I started this. Here we go. He said, "I have a question for Lady Anne. Have you had intense or lucid dreams correlate with orbs or sightings?" So I believe he's asking if you've had anything like that, any kind of experience from the dream.
Oh man. Okay. Yeah. So I had a dream. I mean, all right. So back when I was married, my ex and I had gotten into an argument, and he had left, and he went out driving and went up to this park that was on this big hill that you could see, like, multiple towns from. And he had driven, it was in the middle of the night. He came back, he called me on his way back, and he was really freaking out, and I was like, well, what's going on? And when he had gotten to the top, there was this bright light, this big, just bright light, and there was no sound. There was no helicopter. It wasn't a plane. It wasn't a street light, or like if there's construction, they've got the towers, the lights to be able to see if you're doing construction. There was nothing like that, nothing. And he just didn't have a good feeling. So he drives back home, and I don't know if it was that night or the next night, but I ended up having this dream or whatever, where I was on this bed table thing, and there were these people that came in the room. They were beautiful. They were people, but they spoke telepathically. And I remember they injected me on this arm, my left arm, with something, and then they left the room. And when they left the room, I sat there, and I kind of was observing the other people, and I thought, okay, I gotta try to clear my mind, because they can speak telepathically, so they'll know my thoughts. So I've got to try to just not think. And I get up and I go towards this door, this swinging door, and I get out the swinging door, and there's this room, and it's all white, and it's sterile, and it's like somebody just flipped the light off. And I just collapse. Those, I don't know if you've ever seen those really old antique toys where you press the bottom and they have all these joints and they can move in all these different ways. And then they just collapse if you're not. But it was like that. The lights just go off and I collapse. And the next thing I know, I'm waking up in bed. but I look at my arm and it's legitimately like I had, like if you were to get a flu shot or something, there's a bump and it's sore. Now, for the longest time, I thought, well, you can have a dream that you trip over a fire ant mound and they're covering you and you will wake up in rashes,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the mind can really do amazing things. But when it lasts for more than one day, I think that takes it away a little bit from being just a dream. And then I had some more. I had, because I was pregnant at the time that happened. I don't know if I've ever told this full story or not.
That's okay. Take your time. No rush.
Basically, so I had to have been 4 or 5 months pregnant at the time when that happened. And then I ended up having preterm labor, like symptoms. And I went into the hospital, and it was really strange because there was a man that was there that I didn't recognize him, and when you're going to that particular OB, you're seeing all the different people just because they don't know who's going to be on shift that night when you actually do give birth. So there was this man, and that he's wanting to take my blood, and he leaves his cart in the hallway. And he comes in and he does the thing, but he tells my ex, he's like, "Oh, I don't have the right tube," or whatever. So then he sends him out in the hallway to get the right tube. I mean, this is so against protocol and law. Yeah,
he sent
while
your
he's
ex
standing
to
there.
go get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so finally, and he's acting kind of I don't know, like anxiety or whatever, just off, just weird. So they get my they take my blood and he leaves. The next thing I know is there's somebody else in there, and they inject the stuff into the IV, and they're saying that it's supposed to slow down the contractions, and it was it's called it was like temazepam, which is never supposed to be given in liquid form, and it's never supposed to be used in pregnancy, as far as my research has told me.
Yeah.
And the reaction that I had was awful. I mean, it was nothing in my life that I've ever experienced before, and it was, I don't know, it was just really weird. Well, then everything seems to go back to normal. And when I ended up giving birth to her, it was that night. So I gave birth to her. It was like 10 o'clock at night. Somewhere around 2 or 3 in the morning, I'm waking up, and this nurse has come in, and she's cutting off all of my armbands, every single one of them. And I'm like, what are you doing? And if memory serves me correctly, I want to say that before she cut off my armbands, she put something in the IV again. But she cuts off all the armbands. She tells me that it's fine. And then she wheels my daughter away. And I'm back out. I'm completely out. Well, the next morning, the nurses come in, and they're freaking out. "Where's your armbands?" And I'm like, "Well, nurse so-and-so said it was fine." And they're like, no, you never do that. And they said, "What was the name?" And I said the name, and they said that there wasn't anybody on that floor with that name that night.
Wow.
But I mean, we've been fine ever since, and my child's been fine and everything. But I mean, it's just, I don't know if it's all connected.
Yeah, and I apologize for cutting you off there. I didn't mean to cut you off. Was this your first child?
Yes.
This was
yeah,
your first,
nothing like that. Yeah, so I have 3, and nothing like that has ever happened again.
Right. Yeah, Jim's bringing up a great point here. Wait, is this in an actual hospital? So to clarify that, just so that there's no confusion in the story, this is not.
Yeah, no. No home birth, no nothing. This was a legitimate hospital.
Wow. If you don't mind my asking, when you came back, did the nurses, when they came in, they noticed you were missing your bands, correct? It sounds like.
Yeah. Right. And
So
they
they,
were
they
freaking out about it.
right, as Natalie was saying here, it's illegal. You can't. You're not. I mean, you're never supposed to have them cut. I remember when I used to leave, and
Yeah.
I've been in the hospital for a few minor things, and they cut them off for you at the end, right? They get those ridiculous scissors, and they go to cut it off. But uh, when this took place, did they put new bands on you? And was your daughter there with you? Was she back in the room, or did they have to go and
Yeah.
locate her?
No, she was back in the room. She was totally back in the room, and I do not recall if they put any. I don't know if they did, because I don't know. I can't remember that part. But Natalie, who you said just said whatever it was, she was there. I had met her actually when I first found out that I was pregnant, and she said, what was so weird about it is how nonchalant you were. You were just like, yeah, it happened. And it was weird. It was definitely weird, because I should have been a lot more freaked out. And I just was so space cadet-y over it. It was just so weird. And then and that would not be the last time that I had a strange alien-ish event happen. And that's why I'm kind of like, as I'm writing my book, I'm kind of looking at all these different events and seeing if I can't put them together and see like a bigger picture, or figure out why these different things have happened. Did I ever send you the alien picture?
No, I don't think you did.
Can you, if I share it with you, can you put it on the screen?
Yeah, send it to me if you can, because I don't have it on here. Can you send it to me on Facebook Messenger? Then I can save it and then share it back in here if you have me on there. Because I don't have Instagram on the desktop here. I want to welcome everybody who's coming to the chat room while she's sending that over. So that one time I was abducted by aliens. What's up, ladies? What's shaking? Thank you for coming and hanging out. YJ, Overlord, and Canada, welcome. We still also have, guys, Spaced Out Radio, Dave Scott. He's in here. Unless it's Lynn. Lynn could be creeping under the name Spaced Out Radio. I don't know for sure. And Lynn will also be on tonight. Once I see who she's got on, I will let you guys know. But that will be 12 a.m. Eastern Time. Throwing me off not saying the Eastern Central Standard Time. If Sonny's in here still, he knows what I'm talking about. Spooky Morales, also welcome. Natalie Gilbert, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight, as well as Jose. But yeah, if you send it over to me, I will definitely share that once that. Perfect. So once I get that, I'll bring that up. But so just really quick then, if you wouldn't mind, there's one thing I want to hit on with this story, which first of all, thank you very much for sharing. I never want anybody to feel pressured to have to share anything, but I will say that we have a great little community right here in this chat. I consider a lot of these people like family. It's so funny. I've never met really any of them, but I have plans to. I certainly have plans to. Going back to this instance, and the only reason I want to be clear on it is because the story started at like 10 and then we hit 150 in like 2 seconds. So I just want to make sure I'm getting it clear. You had, when you were traveling, you said it was late at night and you seen the lights that were working. I was a little foggy on that part. Did you fall asleep, or what happened to cause you to wake up in that all white sterile room?
So the ex is who saw the light when he had left the house. And then he had come back home to tell me what he had experienced. And then it was a night or two later that I had this dream. And in the dream, I was in one room and I tried to escape, but they shut me down or something.
Okay. And with the mark that you had on your arm, I mean, I know it always sucks because we never document this stuff. Okay, come on. Yeah. There's times we've all woke up. Anybody who's in this community has woken up sometimes with a mark on them. They're like, maybe not, but none of us ever take pictures of it, right? Maybe some of you guys are out there doing it. I've had a couple times where I thought about it, or I took a picture of something like, this is stupid, and I deleted it later. But did you show it to anybody? Did you point it out and be like, hey, does this seem interesting, strange, weird, any of the above?
Well, yeah, yeah. I had shown it to my ex, and he just kind of, I mean, didn't really care or think much of it. So I just kind of was like, well, maybe I'm just being weird because, I mean, here's the thing. What if this was nothing but a wild imagination and I got bit by a mosquito at that very point, and then my mind just did this fanciful thing? And I mean, because that's a possibility.
100%.
I'm totally, cool with debunking my experiences because then it means it's not real, and that's great. But I mean, it's so weird to have that experience while pregnant and then have that before I give birth and then when I give birth, and it seems.
Yeah, it's a lot. Now, really quick, guys, I do have the pictures that she had sent over. That was probably what you guys saw on my face a minute ago. I was like, what? And now, really quick though, before I share anything, I guess if you wouldn't mind transitioning us a little bit to that, what am I about to show people? Where did this come from?
So, okay. So now we fast forward to to now I have 3 kids. Okay. And I was living in this apartment complex. And I was writing for the newsletter that they were posting every month at this place, and I knew the managers and I loved my community. So I was standing out on my back patio and I was looking at the sky and I was admiring the stars, and we were right on the edge of all this farm field, and I thought, oh man, if we could participate in Earth Hour, this would be incredible. And Earth Hour is when you have all your electricity off for like an hour. Yeah. So, and I was like, oh, how could I put this in the newsletter? Could I inspire the community to do this? Because then imagine what the sky is going to look like. So this is where my head is at. Well, so at this time, I was, there was the people that, I'm going to sound so lame. The people the people that are doing the vaping, and then they're like blowing these monster cloud things, and so I see this cloud and I'm like, oh my gosh, like holy, like where's the person doing this? This is insane. But there's no person there. It's just this cloud of fog stuff. And it literally takes shape into this humanoid figure that it looks like an alien, and he's walking.
I'm going to share the first part. I believe people will still be able to hear us. I'm going to make sure I do the overlay. Make sure it doesn't mute us. Okay, so here we go. And guys, I know that's kind of in the middle, but this is the first image that you sent, which doesn't look like much, but this is what you're initially seeing, right? I'll let you set it up looking at this here.
Well, actually, it's perfect because you can see in the photo there's a white fence. At the end of the white fence, that's where the cloud was, and this is where he like manifests, or whatever you want to call it. He starts walking down the road, out of picture. He's walking along on the other side of that white fence towards the road. So I can't see his legs, but I can see his upper torso and his arms and his head. And he's walking, and then it's like he just disappears, like he walked through this invisible door. So I'm standing out on the patio and I am just frozen, because at this point, I've been doing the Caravan, my podcast. I've been talking to people. I've been learning. All about these different things, and I'm thinking, if I make a move, if I think too much, if I breathe too much, it's going to know that I'm watching it, and there's going to be that like telepathic connection, right. And oh my gosh. So no fight or flight, just freeze. And so I'm standing there, and finally, like, it's gone for a little bit, and I'm like, okay, I need to turn around and I need to go inside. But my fear was if I turned around, he was going to be on my patio with me. And so I go inside. I shut the patio door as fast as I can. I draw the blinds, I draw the curtains. I've called my sister and I'm freaking out. And I'm scatterbrained. And then I end up going into my children's room because their window was still open. Their blinds were open, their window was open. And I'm like, oh, I got to go in there. And I'm on the phone and I go up to the window and I go to pull the pulley to let down the blind. And I just have this feeling to look across the green space to that apartment window. And that's what I see standing there. And I'm going, this is my imagination. This is not real. I'm seeing things. So I just tried to breathe through it. I'm on the phone with my sister. My sister's got me. And I'm going to open up my camera and I'm going to take a picture. And then we're going to get it debunked. We're going to have somebody tell me that this is a car and a light facing the parking lot. That's what this is. And so take the picture, boom, shut the blinds, shut the curtains.
Which is this, right? The initial, this is...
Yes.
This was all you had?
That's it.
Was the... Okay.
That's all, that's it.
So that's what you're initially seeing. Because I did share this part, which is, I mean, there's more, but this is what you're starting to see once you get off the phone, essentially?
No. That's just, that's that picture blown up.
Blown up.
So, yeah. So I just took one photo, shut the blinds, and I sent that one photo to my sister. And I said, take it. I don't want it. I don't want it on my phone. I don't want to have the energetic tie to it. Just if I decide that I can talk about this, which it ended up being like a year later. So
wow.
I was like, if I can talk about this, then I'll ask you for that photograph back, but I don't want it. So I gave it to her and I deleted it. Precursor to the story, though, that I've wondered if it wasn't my fault. So another thing that I really like to do is try to do remote viewing.
Okay.
And so I thought it would be a good idea to try and remote view into the Montauk base. And
really?
Yeah. Yeah,
could have started somewhere like the Dollar General across the street, right? You couldn't have been like, it's right over there. No, I'm going for Montauk right off the bat.
Well, the thing was, I was successful like beforehand with my friends. Like they'd drive somewhere and then I would describe what was around them, or, you know, my sister, and it seemed to be successful. So I thought, well, I'll try something harder, I guess. And so I did that. And it was interesting. I did get to a point where, you know, my sister always likes to play the devil's advocate for me. She is my rock. She grounds me, you know. And so she's not as like spiritually inclined or connected as I am. Well, when I was going through this, I got to this point where there was something that it was like rushing at me. But in the same moment, I hadn't said anything yet because I can see it in my mind's eye, like it's aware of me. And then she on the phone is just like, stop. And I opened my eyes and she was like, I don't know why I had that feeling, but it just really washed over her. And she was very protective and she was very scared. And and then I explained what I saw. Well, it wasn't long after this that I saw that. And then, not long after I saw that.
Do you mind, Sue, before we move on? I apologize, guys. Yeah. I only shared the first two because they were letting me know. They're like, listen, there's one more. I was like, I swear, guys, there is one more. So just to show people, this is the initial picture she took. This is what you see. You're like, you're on your phone with your sister, if I'm understanding correctly. And you say, you know what? I'm just going to take this picture so we can look back at this later and be like, haha, I'm just crazy. It was a light. Yeah. It was a kid. It was a balloon.
Right.
Anything, right? And then your sister sent this back. The next image, I'm assuming, zoomed in a little more.
She zoomed in on it, yeah.
Okay, and then this is the final image, guys, zoomed in. Which, man, I don't know. I recognize it. I forget what it's called. I know that the human mind tries to create.
Pareidoia.
Oh, look at you pulling all the fancy words. I'm lucky to be able to say my name and get the show going. What is it again? Pareidoia?
Yes.
Pareidoia. Okay, so I understand that is a thing, but my, I don't know. That looks pretty interesting to say the least. And going from this originally, I mean, this is what we had originally was this. But now I just want to be clear. And I know you guys probably can't see my mouse marker here, or cursor, but there's a fence down there. I see what you're talking about on the other side of the road. That is what initially caught your eye, correct?
Yeah, it was down there, and I actually saw it walking. And I have had people that have interviewed me about this that I've sent the picture to, and it's been a little rough because they'll say, well, you know, that picture that you sent me, I had it analyzed. I know that I didn't tell you that I was going to do that, but I had it analyzed, and nobody's been able to debunk it yet.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah.
So
wow. I mean, that's all you can say. I mean, to me, you know, the funny thing is, first of all, I want to say thank you for being brave enough to share the photo, because here's the thing. I want to be really honest, guys. I'm into this stuff. I'm into this community, and I still, in the back of my head, if I got a picture, there's only like 3 people that I'm going to share it with. You know what I mean? And they're very, because you don't want to damage the community, but then also too, you questioning this so much yourself, I think gives a little more validity to at least what you experienced. Now, for those that might say, well, it was this or that, we don't know. To be fair, we don't. You were the one there. You had this experience, or at very least whatever you experienced was real to you. And this was the result of the picture. If we're trusting you to be honest with us, which is all we can ask anybody to do, that's pretty phenomenal. I mean, now this is something that it sounds like some of the people are saying you've shared this on SOR before, right, with Dave Scott?
Yes, I did share that with him.
Nice. Yeah, because that's wow. I mean, what were his thoughts? I just out of curiosity, what were his thoughts on this? Or did he say much, or was he like, well, I've seen better? I just
no. I mean, everybody that has seen it has had, you know, the same reaction that you have had. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's so hard to tell, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, I will say that. I mean, I get that, you know, I see a head, man. I think I see an eye. I get that I'm seeing all that. But then, like you're saying, it's hard to know. But regardless, I always say regardless, my brother gets on me about it. Regardless of that, you did sense something prior, right? And this is while you decided to, I don't know, go remote view Montauk. So do you think that this was something in its own way manifesting back how it was remote viewing you?
I don't know. It was just the chain of events. It was the timing that is making me go, well, could this be related? Because then after this, there's one other piece to this thing, is that you know, we didn't have any painting or remodeling or anything that needed to be done to our apartment or the unit or anything. And I was in my kitchen, and I felt this this strong urge to look out my kitchen window, and I had my blind shut. So I looked out and I saw this white van pull up, and they park, and I'm just watching them. And it's 2 men. They get out, and they look like painters. And they, you know, they're dressed in the painter stuff, and they open up the extra door, and they pull out this bucket and everything. And I just had this, I don't know, just this awful feeling about it. And I felt like, I mean, and this sounds so paranoid, but I felt like they were there for me, and I can't explain that. And then legitimately, they looked around, and then they headed straight for my door. They go directly to my unit. up the stairs directly to my door, and they knock on my door. And I just stayed quiet. I stayed quiet, and I did not answer the door at all. And at this point, Vance Nesbitt used to be my co-host on the Caravan when we first started, and he was on the phone with me. I heard what sounded like they were running the paintbrush along my door. And I just waited. And then I heard them walk down the stairs. They look around, they get back in the van, and they leave. And I'm just sitting there like, out of all the units, out of everything, you just randomly, like, you know, so I opened my door. There's nothing there. There's nothing wet. There is no paint. There's absolutely nothing on my door or around it. So it makes no sense on what they did to my door. Yeah. You know, and then at the time, Vance was like, well, run a magnet across it. You know, I guess he was thinking about, like, what is it, nanotechnology or something? And so, you know, and that was the end of that. But it was all within a certain time frame, you know, and so that's, again, what kind of makes me lump them all together. I mean, they could be totally separate things. Maybe they were just two really weird guys. I mean, you know, who knows? It's just weird, though.
Right. Well, I tell you what, guys, really quick, we're going to take a quick, because I want to keep going with this. I definitely do. Really quick, though, I want to say Sunsavers got to get out of here. They had a long day. We appreciate you being in the chat so much and hang out with us. Everybody, we're going to take about maybe a 5-minute break. That way, if anybody needs to the bathroom, we'll be back in just a second here, and we'll keep going. I'm going to throw up I'm probably going to throw up a piece of music or something. It'll probably cut off early, but at least they'll still be in the background. So I'm going to pull you backstage for just a second, if that's okay, Lydia. If you got to use the bathroom, about 5 minutes, and then, guys, we'll be right back. So go use the bathroom, get your favorite snack, because we got a lot more to go into. And why, when we come back, by the way, the name why in the chat has a great question that I want to dig into. Also, we're hitting the last hour here, guys, so if anybody wants to ask any questions besides the stuff that we're going to go into, put that in caps, and I will do my best to get back with you. So just 1 minute here. I'm going to throw this up and move her backstage. Guys, this is crazy stuff. I picture, my gosh, I don't even know what to think. Crazy stuff right there, I tell you what, in a good way. All right, let me throw this up. Everybody, we'll be right back. Don't you dare thinking about going anywhere else. We'll be right back here. And look at that, guys. We are back already. Alrighty. Oh, here she is. I'll bring her back in. So it wasn't quite 5 minutes, but we got us close. We were able to get some more coffee. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Always coffee, always.
Heck yeah. I normally do the coffee, but I've been doing, I tell you what, with doing these lately, I've been rolling with tea. So like honey and tea, like raspberry tea. I do a lot of that because I do drink a lot of coffee during the day. But it was with all the creamer and all the other unhealthy stuff. So I was like, I'll tell you what, I'll start going with the tea. We'll see. They say it's better for you. I don't know if that's true or not.
Tea is very good. I enjoy it.
So really quick then, let's just get right back into it. I'm trying to catch up. I thought we were going to go a little longer than 5 minutes, guys, and we went a little, I think we did like 2.5 minutes, but that's good now. They gave everybody a second there. So if I missed anything in the chat, I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss anything. Please put any question you have in caps if possible. If you did put one up there, I will definitely do my best to read back through it. But I want to go back to Y's question really quick. And they asked us a while ago, and I know we're kind of backtracking just a little bit. Which was in regards, and if you're okay sharing this, and if you're not, entirely up to you. But Y asked, have you noticed at all with your oldest having any, what you could say, quote unquote, special abilities? Has there ever been an inkling of something unusual that way?
No. What's actually really interesting is that she is more regular, like not maybe disconnected. I mean, it's my middle child actually is very, it's like she can talk to animals, as weird as that sounds, but like I've never seen animals react to somebody the way that they do her. The way that they just flock to her, the way that she knows what they're thinking or feeling or whatever, and how they seem to respond to these knowings that she has. And then my youngest, well, she's definitely, she can see things for sure. There was one time, and I'll just really quick, that she said, "Mommy, there's a girl in the attic." And I was like, okay. And she goes, she has black hair and she's sitting there. And this was what was really weird. She described, okay, so there's these things where it's like a candle. It's like an old antique candle lamp, but it turns, the heat from the candle turns the thing. And then there's these cutouts. So the shadows dance around on the walls. And she described this to a T, and I can tell you for a fact that we've never, ever seen anything like that on TV. We hadn't taken her antique shopping. Nobody in my family has owned one, or at the time, when I was married, his family didn't either. So, I mean, yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah, I think it's very intriguing, at least, that whatever happened, whatever the situation was, in regards to that story you shared, the sequence of events that led up to that. I could see why people are curious, because I was too. When Y asked the question, I was like, yeah, I'm kind of thinking about that. But, who's to say, and again, it's total speculation, but who's to say that, it seems, from my limited experience with those and hearing their stories of their experiences, that when a person has an interaction or has an event that involves perhaps their children, that generally rolls into the other ones as well. But again, I'm not saying that's the case for every single thing. But have you ever had a fear that way, I guess, with your children? Like, how do you approach this conversation? Because I don't know the ages exactly, but are they old enough to really have the conversation with you about what the other realm could be, or seeing something, or having an experience? Have you sat them down and talked to them about that?
Yeah, so they are very, I mean, they know what I do with my podcasting and stuff, and they've checked in and watched Dave's show, and they watch a bunch of other people on YouTube, and it's really cool because they are even though they're kids, they'll say, "Hey, is there somebody that you can recommend that isn't going to lie to us?" That it's more along the lines of a paranormal research and not just trying to make a buck on YouTube and fake these paranormal things. Yeah, so I mean, I've gotten really lucky that they're very open and stuff, but again, I let the questions come to me, and one thing really quick that I will say, the shadow entities, the cloaked hooded figures that I would see as a child, I later learned that my sister was seeing them too. And I was really shocked because it was like, wow, okay, so I'm not alone. This isn't just me. And then later on, because it was scary, I didn't want to talk about it, and I didn't ever want to put that in my kids' brains. However, they did eventually end up coming to me, and it was really strange because they came to me and they said, you know, I saw this by my bed, and it was a cloaked, hooded figure. Maybe 2 weeks later, my sister called me, and she said that her children had experienced the same thing, and she swore up and down that she'd never told her kids about this at all. And so both our children, we live like 4 hours away from each other. We're lucky to see each other once a year. And so, I mean, the kids have only met a handful of times, and they don't talk, you know? And so it was, you know,
wow.
I don't know.
I love that, by the way, Tim. It's pretty funny. They're talking in here in the chat about how people communicate with animals and different things around them. And she was like, wait till you can hear the plants. There's some truth to that. But we do have a question here from UFOologist. And they say, Lady Anne, have you tried to establish ongoing telepathic communication with them?
No, okay. So this goes into another story.
I love it. This is what we're here for. We are here for the stories. We're here for the sharing, the strange, the weird. It's Halloween. If there's ever a time to reach people and them to be more open, it is now. So I say share away.
Right. Well, okay. So back to when my dad was talking to me about, you know, okay, well, this is a UFO and this is a satellite and everything. And when I would see them in the sky and I could see them moving around, one night I told my friend, hey, I want to go stargazing with you. So come on over and let's watch the sky. And it was during the blue hour, and we had our snacks and we had our chairs and everything like that. Well, prior to this, there was occasions where I was watching these things in the sky, and I kind of wondered, okay, are you going to go this way? Or are you going to go that way? And it would. But then again, maybe I was just guessing. Maybe I noticed a pattern, you know, kind of a thing. So maybe it wasn't a telepathic communication, but, you know, maybe it was guessing. Who knows? But anyways, so this had been happening. And then my friend was over, and we're sitting there, and again, it's the blue hour and everything. Well, being rock hounders, they had this huge rock garden that surrounded our house. When you walk on these rocks, it's not like walking on river rock. A river rock's going to scrape when you walk on it, but like agates and stuff, it's gonna kind of tink a little bit and scrape in a different way. And I could hear it was like somebody was walking in the rock garden behind me. Now I'm looking behind her, and I'm like, look behind me, you know, kind of a thing. And she's looking behind me, and she doesn't see anything at all. And my dear friend, unfortunately, I ended up I bolted. I got up and I ran.
The old fight or flight kicked right in. You're like, I just got to be faster than them. That's all it is.
Well,
I outrun.
I mean, goodness, if I'm running, I'm not a runner. I'm not into that. So if I'm running, you should too. Seriously.
There we go.
So that was my thought. So just, you know, and so we get back inside and we get into the house, and I go into my room. Now, when you walked into my house, just my dad's room, the front door, and the living room were on that one level, but the ground went down. And so, like, to get to my room on the main floor, you would have needed a ladder. Like, there's no way, there's nothing, no patio, no way that you can be outside of my bedroom door or window. And my friend, you know, again, she was more serious. You know, she was a lot more serious person. She didn't, you know, believe in all this crazy stuff that I did. I didn't really talk to her about UFOs or anything like that because, of course, I thought she'd think I was super weird. Well, we were sitting there after this experience, and she was just like, "Yeah, that was weird." Well, I'm looking at her, so my window's behind me. I'm looking at her, and she just buries herself on my bed in the pillow, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" Like, hello, you know, and she wouldn't respond. She just would not respond. So then I'm shaking her and I'm just like, what are you doing? And, you know, so finally she sits up and man, she was crying. This is somebody like I've only seen, like, I still know her and I have only seen her cry like a handful of times. Like, what is going on? She points behind me and she says that she saw fingers in my window do that, like wave. And I was just like, I didn't want to believe her. I'm just sitting there going, no way, no way. You know, so I shut the blinds and everything. Well, it was a couple weeks after this that my dad decided, he's like, hey, let's go on a camping trip. This is like a graduation. It's fishing and camping and everything. And so, you know, we drive 4 hours away and we are camping. Well, this is the first campsite that we were at. And we're sitting there in the tent. And I can feel that same feeling that I did when we were looking at the constellations. And I can't tell if there's something outside the tent or not. And this feeling, my poor friend, it's building. And so, boom, I unzip the tent. I'm gone. I'm running towards the women's bathroom. And I'm just like, you know, so I run and, you know, she's caught on. She's caught on. She's running after me. Okay. We are headed to the women's bathroom. We go in there and we shut the door. Oh my God. Well, you know, we're standing there going, what is going on? What is going on? Because, you know, when we ran out of the tent, we didn't see anybody, but we could hear stuff behind us as we ran. And when we were in there, there was that, you know, the gravel, like a gravel road stuff in front of the women's bathroom. And you could hear someone pacing back and forth in front of the door. So finally, I'm getting to the point where I've been scared so much and the feeling is so intense that I'm like, go get in the stall. Get in the furthest stall and you stay there. Go there. I can't take this anymore. I don't want to be stuck here because now we were really stuck. There was no other way out.
Right.
So
this is how the beginning of every horror film begins, right? We're gonna go camping. It'll be nice. Now here we are hiding in a public stall in a bathroom. Yeah. That's
yeah, no. So at this point I'm done. And I rip open that door and I'm like, what? Because I'm just done at this point. Nothing. There's nobody there. Nothing. All I see is trees. There's just a bunch of trees and that's it. So I wait.
Your friend, I'm so sorry. I must have been delayed. I didn't mean to cut you off. So your friend, but your friend experienced this too. Did they just run because of you, or did they hear anything? Did they also hear the sound as well?
No, we did talk about it before I ran. She heard something too around the tent.
Okay.
And then so so finally she comes out of the stall and she's like, what happened? And I was like, there's nothing there. There's nobody. Just a bunch of trees, you know? So we end up, we're standing there and she's like, okay, well, let's just walk back to the tent. Just walk, though. Don't run. We'll just walk. Okay. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to act like we're not afraid. That didn't just happen. So we're going to go to the tent. So we get in the tent and we go to sleep. And it's the next morning. Now it's time to, get up. It's daylight. Huh, awesome. Okay, let's go and brush our teeth and get ready for the day. What are we going to do? And I'm walking to the restroom so I can do this. And I'm walking and I look out at the area that I was looking at the night before. There's no trees.
Shut
It is
up.
a gravel lot.
There's no trees?
Yeah.
Like, it's just gone. The trees that you guys were camping, the backdrop is just not there.
The trees that I saw in front of the women's bathroom that night, late that night, all these trees, there's nothing there. There's no trees. It's just this gravel lot.
I mean, what did you bring it up to your friend? I mean, because they were still there at this time as well. I mean, were you freaking out a little bit? Or were you thinking that, I'm just misremembering this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, and she had nothing.
Oh, my gosh. So what do you chalk that up to if you're speculating here? What do you think took place?
I mean, okay. So recently something that I've been learning about is time slips. There's this new research that I've come across, new to me, that sometimes you think that you see a ghost, but it's like it's a time slip and you're actually seeing an actual person, and they may see you, but they think that you're a ghost, but you're not. And so who's to say that can't happen with trees and stuff? I mean,
yeah. No, 100%. I mean, there's so many times. I mean, again, maybe this is a terrible term to use and people get whatever with it, but the thinning of the veil, like.
Right.
Perhaps you were just seeing that other thing. And one of the most amazing stories I ever heard, and I'm trying to remember, I think it was on another podcast. I cannot remember the name of the guest, but they spoke about an instance, and I believe I've shared it on here before, where she was part of a paranormal team, and I forget what the procedure is exactly called, but you go in a room and you put up a tape recorder or a recorder of some sort, and you'll just ask questions, and then you'll play that audio back later and see if there were answers that you didn't audibly hear at the time, right? I don't remember. Do you know what the name of that is? What that?
They're trying to capture like EVPs.
Okay. All right. I wasn't sure. I was just saying, listen, there's fancy words here, guys. Like I said, my name, the name of this show at best, and that's what I can handle. So anyways, what was crazy is when she played it back, there was a moment where she was discussing, she thought she was picking up on, she was feeling the energy, but she wasn't audibly hearing anything. But she was speaking out loud. And in her recording, she picked up one spot in particular that said, she heard a little girl say, she heard a man's voice, an older man's voice say, they're here. And then she heard a little girl's voice say, I want to listen. I want to be able to listen too. Let me hear. And he said, and then the man's voice came back on again and said, that's it. I'm right there. That spirit, it's here again. We're going to, or the spirit's in the room. So in their whatever existence or dimension, or however you want to lay it out there, maybe it is a time slip. She was their ghost or their paranormal experience. And I've always found that so interesting that with some of the things that happen, I don't think we can always chalk it into a very black and white, like, well, it was just a UFO or it was just this. It's like, man, we say, I have no clue what's going on, but man, I'm going to enjoy the ride and the journey on the way there. But yeah, excuse me, for you to go through that. And then you physically had surrounding areas around you change. That is unbelievable. We had Jess on when I did the first episode with her with CERN. She had a similar experience like this. They actually, instead of losing time, they gained time. And I'd never heard of that one before. Yeah. Wow. Really quick though, so I don't thank you so much, ufologist. By the way, you really didn't have to do it, but we really appreciate you doing that. But they have a question. I believe we did ask this, but in case they were out of the room, we followed up with this question when we came right back. Have you ever tried to establish telepathic communication with them from home or anywhere /time, not during an experience? So I apologize, ufologist. You probably were out of the room when you asked that question, but if you wouldn't mind answering that one more time, I'd appreciate it so much.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's pretty much, I really haven't really tried. I mean, I will say in healing group, I mean, I was working on channeling, and I believe that I had channeled the Palladians, and I gave that message to that woman who ended up going to ECETI. Other than that, I've been told, just from my spiritual mentors and stuff like that, you know, I don't know how to say it. I'm really susceptible to experiences, or to, like with channeling, for instance. When I was first learning it, I would click out and come back in a lot. There was times where I remember getting in my car, and then all of a sudden I was at my mentor's house, and I don't know how I got there. I have no memory of it whatsoever. So when it comes to trying to communicate with stuff, it's a slippery slope, and I have to be really careful, so I don't try to.
Well, that brings up another question I would love to hit on for a second, if you wouldn't mind. I'm also going to ask everybody in the chat here as well, if they have ever had an experience, you know, you mentioned this earlier with the picture, as far as remote viewing, or had premonitions. Now, for yourself, you've had quite a few actually in your lifetime, and if you'd willing to share any of those, what is the difference for yourself in the idea of remote viewing and let's say premonitions? Are they intertwined, or are they very unique individual things themselves?
I think that they're two totally different things. You know, because for me, when I was remote viewing, it was more so like I wanted to remote view in that moment. I wanted to see what was there right now, this moment right now. As for premonitions, I actually opened the book with this story. It was actually it's so weird. As I'm writing this book, I find that I'm really I'm kind of working through these experiences, and there's some weird synchronicities that are happening in my life as well as I start to write about the story. I'll never forget, I was at this one point in the book, and I was talking about this specific mentor. Nobody knew I was writing the story yet, and legitimately I wrote her name down, and she messaged me, and I hadn't talked to her for years. And there's a lot of that going on right now as I'm writing it, but in the beginning, what I didn't understand and didn't know that it was like a premonition is I was in the car. My dad, he was driving this 2-door Ford Ranger, and we were going to Spokane, and it was quite a drive, and it was summertime, and I was in the front seat, and it hadn't gotten too hot yet. We had the windows down a little bit, and it was still cold. The air conditioner didn't work in the truck, and
Best kind.
yeah. Well, I ended up right. I ended up there was this movie scene that played in my head. There was a movie called Fly Away Home. And in the beginning of this movie, there's this girl, and, you know, her mom and her get in a car wreck, and the mom dies. And I had this vision of this in my head, and I had just about fallen asleep. I had my pillow up against the window, you know, and I was laying next to it like this. And all of a sudden I'm seeing this car wreck in my head, and it's horrible. And as soon as I go to open my eyes, there was a very, very loud pop that sounded like an explosion. What ended up happening is that the tread came off of one of the front tires, and it came off of it completely, and we were going, you know, 65 miles an hour. So the next thing I see is my dad, you know, he's gripping the wheel, and then everything goes black. And I remember screaming. And then I remember waking up. And so what had happened is the truck had flipped over twice. And we landed upright, and the top of the truck had caved in like this, and if it wasn't for my dad throwing his body over mine, um that part that caved in, he wouldn't be here. But the only thing that happened to me is I got 2 stitches on the back of my hand. And that's it out of
Wow.
all that. So, so I've had scenes pop in my head right before something is going to happen, so that's what I would say is the difference between a premonition and a remote viewing.
But in that situation, and maybe correct me if I'm misunderstanding, that actually took place, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you had a feeling prior to it, and
right.
then it actually did take place. That's
right.
I mean, first of all, by the way, thank you so much to you guys for that. You guys are amazing. So much for supporting the show here tonight. We really appreciate it, and we really appreciate Lady Anne coming on and being a fantastic, amazing guest for me. It's making my job so easy tonight.
Thank you.
Sitting back, asking questions. My goodness, I guess another thing I'd love to ask you about is you've had some instances. Well, let's hit on this a little bit because I only got about 4. Believe it or not, we've only got about a half hour left, a little less actually. Before I have to. We're in a time warp, right? That's what happens,
right?
So anybody else as well who has questions in chat, please get them in because we will be wrapping up soon for SOR, and I will find out who Lynn has on tonight here in a minute for you guys. But I'd love to hit on the idea of something that I've really been coming into as of late, and I think that everyone's done it in their own way, maybe just had different terminology for it, but the idea of manifestation. Now, I know people hate this term, right? We're going to get all new agey with it, but this isn't new age. This is something, in my very humble, uneducated opinion on it, that is very ancient knowledge that has existed for forever, and we've just lost touch with it. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on the idea of manifestation.
So I believe in manifestation like you wouldn't believe because so okay. Again, it's a story. It's a personal story.
The best.
So I was in a marriage for 12 years. It was really rough. It was emotionally and spiritually, verbally abusive. And at that point, at the end, I didn't have anything. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know where I was going to go. And I was watching Peaky Blinders actually, and there was this point in the movie where he was talking about how they'd get their stipends, and he'd buy the lard and the flour and everything like that. And one day he was like, no, and he buys a top hat and a coconut, and he's like, we deserve better. My mom and I deserve better. And at that moment, he was like, I'm gonna do this. And then, they've, not to spoil the show or anything, but they've worked themselves up in life. So I took that and I was like, I'm just going to do it. I can do this. And I know what I want for myself and my children, even though I have nothing right now. Like, I didn't have a car. I didn't have a penny to my name. And I was like, I'm doing this. And I just, I laughed and called out, universe juice. That's what I call it. So I was like, universe juice, let's go. And I ended up I got a car, and I ended up being able, because at that time too I was like, gosh, how am I, I need a job. And I ended up I was volunteering at this dental place, and I wrote out this thing that was just like, okay, this is what I can do on the website and technical side. And he hired me. Well, for whatever reason, the dental assistant was jealous, and so she quit. And then Doc looks at me and he goes, well, you're up. And I'm like, I'm up for what? And he's like, you're the new assistant. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And I'm telling you, trial by fire, my very first patient, full teeth removal, 27 teeth
goodness.
plus toride. Yeah, it was crazy. So then as I'm working with my best friend at this dental place. It's just her and myself and the doc. And I'm like, man, I really wish that we could like carpool together. And I wish that our kids could go to the same sitter. And I was like, but I've always wanted to move back home to the small town that I came from. And so we're sitting there and I'm like, you know what? Universe juice. And I get on Craigslist. And I'm telling you, the place that I'm living now, it was on the front page of Craigslist. I had it in less than 24 hours. There's only one house in between my friend and I. Only one house, and it's back in my town that I grew up in. So, and I've, the thing is we are magnets. Everything that you feel inside, everything that because, okay, unpopular opinion, but whatever. We control our emotions. We are in control of that. And what we choose to feel is also what we draw to us. So if you sit there and you're thinking positive and you're thanking the universe, not only for the gifts that you actually have right now, but the gifts that are actually going to be coming to you, because there are gifts coming to you. You just, be positive and know that. And then all of a sudden you see your entire world begin to change, and you are being gifted these things that you want are coming to you. I mean, now, again, like I never thought I'd travel. I never thought that I'd get on a plane. Now I've been to Arkansas, to Colorado, to Ohio. I never, like, one of the smallest things that I always wanted to see was a firefly. I know it sounds silly, but I mean, it was a dream that I had forever, because I thought that these little, I mean, I know it's a bug, but it's like this little piece of real magic in the world. I never thought that I'd see one. I got to see a whole field of them in August, and
That's
then
amazing.
I had a really crazy Sasquatch experience the next day, but
really, well, let's hit on it. Well, first, let's wrap up. Here we do. We got about 20 minutes. Let's wrap up with the manifestation stuff, which is, first of all, by the way, thank you, Spooky Morales. You guys have been amazing. Putting gasoline in Old Blue here so we can travel these cosmos each and every weekend for you guys and share these amazing stories. I really, really appreciate you guys supporting the show. And to those that have popped into the chat, Snakes on a UFO, thank you so much for hanging out with us. And Oracles and Beyond, thank you. Welcome. So really quick, though, let's finish up with the manifestation stuff here. Do you feel that this is something that anyone can do, and are they tying into some sort of ancient, forbidden, unknown knowledge, or is this just something that really anybody can do if they focus on their intentions?
We are all capable of it. It's just a matter of choosing it. It's a matter of mind frame, in my opinion.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, with the fireflies, Spaced Out Radio says, I was blown away the first time I saw a firefly. I was 34 the first time I saw them. And
yeah.
Field full of them.
34.
Someone, T-Waz says, nah, they're little fairies. You might be on something now.
Yeah.
But let's move into this. So, and this is funny. The Guitar Slinger is bringing us up as far as the Sasquatch. And let's move into that with your brief encounter, what you might have had there. You guys are so amazing. Eric Arkley, thank you so much. I don't believe I've ever seen in the chat before. Thank you for supporting the show so much. We really appreciate it, guys. But what took place here? So you go to this magical field, you see all the fireflies you could ever want, and you're just dancing under the moonlight. Is how I see it. I don't know, maybe the theater of mind takes me too far away, but that's what I see.
Well,
with the carriage bringing you down, right? You rolled in with a carriage, a lantern,
the Bardo. No, so like I'll try not to keep it too long. But pretty much, we were doing a ghost investigation in one place. There seemed to be a lot of information coming through via the Estes method. Now, the Estes method is where you've got your SB7, which is a spirit box that, goes through the radio stations at a fast rate, and there will be words that will come through. You have somebody have their headphones on, their noise-canceling headphones, they're blindfolded, and they're just shouting out what they hear on the spirit box. And then the room, can ask questions. Well, so a lot of stuff was coming through about the land. just the land. And so I had the great idea that we should continue this ghost investigation in the woods. And so we go. Now, so we go in on, and we're riding this side by side, so it's me and one other person in the front. Now we've got one other person in the back. And so we go in, we're at the mouth of the woods, we park the side by side, and we get out. We're walking in with the equipment, and I'm asked, how does it feel? Because they know that I'm sensitive. And I was like, oh, it feels fine. Not noticing that it was silent. Because here in our woods in Oregon, it can be very, very quiet. But holy Toledo, over there, it's like an orchestra. I've never heard it that way. I mean, it's incredible, the sound outside. And of course, because that's not my norm, I didn't realize that it was so quiet. So we set up everything. And I'm sitting there. And behind me to the right, I can hear what sounds like a bipedal something walking. I know that this is not a rabbit. This is not a deer. This is not a bird. This is something bipedal, and it is walking. And I'm like, we're all accounted for. But I don't want to be, I don't want to be the wiener, so I don't want to say anything. And so I'm just sitting there. And then I swear I hear this low guttural growl. And and now I'm sitting there going, you are hearing things. This is your imagination. This is, you're creative, and this is what you're doing because you're afraid. So I decide, you know what? I'm going to stand up, and I'm going to turn around, and I'm going to face, what's behind me. And then I'm not going to be afraid anymore because this isn't going to be behind me. So I'm standing there, and I'm like, ooh, even better. I'm going to grab a flashlight. So I get my flashlight, and I'm like, I'm looking around, and just out of reach of the light, I thought I saw head and shoulders and this body and this arm around the tree. And I'm like, I need my glasses. This is because I don't have glasses. I'm seeing things. I should have, totally blaming it on me just being a total wiener, and that's just what it is. So I take the light away, and the people are sitting there, and they're like, you okay? And I'm like, just, quiet. And then all of a sudden, there is this loud just bang on the side of the side by side, like an open-handed slap on the side of this thing. And of course, now they end up laughing because for them, they're in paranormal investigator mode. And when you're in that mode, there is a lot of sounds, especially when you're in the old buildings and stuff like that. And with spirits, sounds are normal. And I'm just sitting there like, this isn't okay. And that, like, I legitimately was thinking about Sasquatch. I thought that that's what I saw. And I'm going, it's just your imagination. No way. So again, they're like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I want to go to the field. Can we go to the field? Please, I want to go out right now, and I'm just like, and so we get in the side by side and we go out to the field, and everything, I'm like, okay, this is good. I'm good. This is great. This is where I want to be. And so we get out again, we put out the blankets, and I didn't know she was going to do this. And she pulls out her phone. She's holding her phone up, and she played the recording. You can find it on YouTube if you Google the Ohio Howl. This was a recording done in 1994, supposedly of a Sasquatch. And lo and behold, the same howl, the same sound comes just bellowing out of the woods. And I'm standing there, and my whole world is crumbling around me because I'm going, okay. I've experienced ghosts, and and possibly aliens. And I know that people have experienced Sasquatch, and I'm not discounting any of them, but this is not in my reality. This is not something that I'm going to experience. But here it is, and it's yelling at me. And then all of a sudden, it sounds like it takes this tree out of the ground and it slaps it against this other tree. I mean, just this cracking,
Wow.
crashing sound. And I'm just like, at this point, we're back in the side by side, and I'm like, go, go, go. Like, I'm done. I'm out. And all the while, so we had somebody in the back, and she's got the night vision camera, and she's scanning the wood line to see if anything's coming out after us. And all I can replay in my head is the different stories about like bluff charging or, flanking. And I'm just like, we're done. Like, I'm going to die, And so we get back to the base camp, and like an hour or so goes by, and I'm feeling better. And then we all kind of regroup, and I was like, there are two camps when it comes to Sasquatch. There's your camp that believes that it is a regular mammal, humanoid, or what is it, Neanderthal human thingy, right?
Yeah.
I haven't delved into the world of Sasquatch. I don't know the terminology because I didn't want to. And so, and then the other half is believing that it's a spiritual being that can communicate and all this stuff. So I thought, okay, let's put it to the test and use the Estes method to see if we can communicate with these things. As crazy as it sounds, I've never heard of anybody else doing it. So, boom, we put somebody on the Estes method. And the person on the Estes method, they can't see or hear us at all. And they're like, look, see. And I'm looking on the ridge, and there's a tree branch in the moonlight, and you can see that same figure that I saw when we were in the woods, the head and the shoulder, and you can see it swaying like this.
Wow.
And then the person on the Estes method says, "You see me." And
to be clear for people that, you already explained it, but they can't see anything, right? They're essentially wearing this helmet, or they're blindfolded.
Right.
Okay.
Blindfolded and totally like this, just completely, they can't. And then there's somebody behind her. So I'm facing her. I've got somebody next to me, and the person with me did see the thing up on the ridge. And then there's one person behind her, and like I said, she's facing me. The person behind her has a flashlight and turns it on and faces it over in that direction. And then you hear her say from the Estes method, "Bright, too bright." And so, he turned the flashlight off. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know, because
as I say, how did you guys process this? When there was someone else witnessing this, I'm assuming there was probably one or two of you that witnessed this besides yourself.
3 of us. There were 4 of us there total. One person was doing the Estes method. 3 of us were experiencing this together.
Did this change your view at the time, worldview on the possibility of Bigfoot or Sasquatch?
Well, what it made me think was, what if it's not Sasquatch altogether? What if it's something else that can take the form of Sasquatch? And this would also make sense why there's 2 different camps, because maybe there is something that, like, maybe it's both. Maybe there is the regular old Sasquatch, but something else that can mimic it and take its shape. That's something else that, granted, I haven't researched it, and I'm not in any kind of Bigfoot community or anything, but I have not heard of that thought about being, both.
Right. Yeah. There's another thing here too. By the way, welcome, Jessica. I was going to type it up here, but I'll just welcome you. You can hear me say it to you. Jessica Mercury, thank you so much for coming in here and checking us out tonight. Also, Sonny from the Paranormal Chop Shop had some videos that he sent me that he had an experience and seen some stuff. I'll have to send it. He's asking me to send it to you, so I'll make sure I do,
please.
because it's similar to, and not exactly what you went through, but far as, I mean, whatever he's seen, whatever the video is, and he shared it before with the boys in the garage. It's pretty impressive.
Wow.
And guitar is bringing up the idea too that, like, you know, maybe it is an SW. We don't know. It's Zero Cool. I mean, I don't know what part of Ohio you were in Ohio, right?
I was.
You don't know. You don't know.
Oh man.
But I tell you what, too, guys. What I'd love to do is, because we have about 10 minutes left here, so before any of you start to head out or leave, I want to thank each and every one. I got to figure out how to do this better. There's got to be a list, or maybe I keep track of it. For anybody who's contributed tonight and supported the show, we really, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you guys. Honestly, you guys just coming in and hanging out and creating this space for us to be able to interact with one another. And I truly believe, whatever, people can make fun of me for it, but the idea of the collective consciousness, putting the pieces together, I think it's a real thing. And I believe we're doing so much more than we realize just by you being amazing tonight and sharing these stories and just being honest and open. I don't know about you guys in the chat, but I could think for myself, hearing the emotion behind you telling these stories, this isn't something you're just coming on to do for attention. This isn't something you're doing for, you know, whatever, to put your name out there, because let's be honest, in this community, it can be very hard to put yourself out there and to deal with the repercussions of that, because we all have vast opinions and that roam about. But really quick, I just want to let everybody know for links. I told you guys I would let you know. She'll be going on here in about 10 minutes, actually. It says tonight she's got Demon, Ghost, and Paranormal Investigator with Carl Johnson. So Carl Johnson tonight, Lynn Wallington, Spaced Out Radio. She'll be going on about 10 minutes or so here. But what I'd love to do is really quick, if anybody has any last-minute questions for Lady Ann, please submit them. Let me know if you'd like to ask them. And then the last question I have for you, Lady Ann, would be if I'd loved, and obviously we wouldn't be able to cover it all in 10 minutes, but the inspiration behind KPLN, or oh my gosh, I said it wrong again. It's KPLN, right?
KPNL. Think K Paranormal.
Okay, now that you gave me something to think about. But where can people, I know, and I'll share that again in the chat, but again, I just love you to plug it for anybody here at the end that's popping in before everybody heads over to SOR. So where can they find you? And I'll pop it up in the chat for them as well.
Okay, so definitely check out, it's kpnl-db.com. That's the website for my, it's a paranormal network. We play podcasts after 5 p.m. We carry Spaced Out Radio when Dave is live. We carry that over there, and we play music when we're not playing podcasts. It was inspired because I love the community so much, and it was another way for me to kind of be the cheerleader in the group and be like, all right, you know, here's everybody that does, you know, everything. Everybody that I have on there, I really believe does this with true heart and good intention and the right intention. And so that's, you know, the short of how it came to be. And KPNL is also on, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook under KPNL Radio. Then I have my podcast called The Caravan Library of Lore. So you can Google The Caravan Library of Lore. You can also find it under Caravan of Lore. And that as well is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Heck yeah. And I'll make sure, guys, by the way, if you are watching this back in podcast format, I will make sure I'm sending this over to Ben every time. So you guys scroll down in the show notes there. The links to everything that we've talked about tonight, where you can follow Lady Ann, where you can support her and all the work that she is doing, as well as some of the other fun things that she has going on, will be linked in there. Or if you're watching tonight, you can scroll down and follow those links. We'd love it if you guys would give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down. That's up to you. You're helping us either way with the algorithm. But thumbs up are preferred over the thumbs down. And one last thing, too, if you guys want, you guys know you can pop over and support the UFO Garage at ufogaragepodcast.com. You guys can go and get all kinds of fun t-shirts there. There's all kinds of fun stuff you can do and support them. So we really appreciate Ben and Joe so much. Honestly, I don't think you two realize how much you've done and what you're doing. And like, you've got the documentary that's coming out. There's just so much that I'm excited for them. And it's been amazing meeting all these people that SOR, I didn't even know who SOR was roughly 6 months ago. I had heard of them. I knew Dave Scott because of Ben and Joe, but I didn't know about the community and all this. So it's been great meeting everybody. One thing I'm going to do, though, is unless I missed it, guys, if I've missed it, I apologize. There's a couple messages that popped at the end. Doesn't look like anybody submitted any big question. We have, maybe put it up in caps. But yeah, we thank you guys so much. Everybody's saying they've had a great time tonight, and I know I had a great time.
Oh,
what I'm gonna do though is I'm gonna take you backstage just really quick. Once I end the broadcast, don't hop off because I have another question for you. So, if you got a second at least, I'll do that.
I do, and thank you everybody for tuning in. It means so much. Thank you.
Yeah, this has been great. Oh yeah, and the process of your book. Yeah, make sure whenever you get that updated, if you get it updated, we'll send it. We can always add it back in the show notes later for people who are listening. Because for all we know, guys, it's the year 2055, and someone went back and listened to this episode. We don't know. Who knows who we're speaking to? Agreed. Speaking of Morales, he says UFO Garage is going hard in 2022. I'm just excited for the big get together. Whenever that finally happens, it's going to be a good time. So, all right, Lady Ann, I'm going to take you backstage real quick. I'm going to get everybody out of here and let them know we have coming up, and then just hang out for me for just a couple minutes, okay? All right, peace. Alrighty, guys. Well, man, tell you what, I feel so bad. I feel I interrupted her a couple times, and I just all we needed to do was set her up. I could have submitted the few questions I had in the beginning and been all right, you just tell these stories because this is amazing. It was a great time. You guys were also amazing. Thank you for hanging out with all the, my goodness, technical issues we had in the beginning. I think it took 40 minutes to get going. You guys are extremely patient, and we love the support that you guys showed us each and every week. I'll make sure I get it going here because we don't want to miss Lynn Wellington and SOR over there. So I will see a bunch of you over there in the chat tonight. If you guys could, before you get out of here, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. We'd love it if you want to. Please go for it. If you don't want to, that's okay. Life's free. Do as you will with it. And then, like I said, thumbs up or thumbs down. And then tune in for me next week. I will have Ashley from Wednesdays We Talk Weird. And she has got her own special kind of weird that I just cannot describe. It is her thing, and you will see and you will know what I'm talking about. And I love it. I love keeping things weird. Speaking of weird, as I always say, when we're ending the show here, guys, stay curious and keep it weird. I'm just kidding. I'm back. Let's do it again. We'll rewind that. That'll be edited out. No problem. The podcast part will be super clean. All right, let's try this again. Retake. Nobody heard the last 2 seconds. We're going to do it again. As always, guys, stay curious and keep it weird.